AITA for not making my child move to accommodate someone with a possible disability? My husband and I were flying yesterday with our one-yo. He's very active, so we always buy him his own seat rather than putting him on our laps for the flight. We had bulkhead seats, those at the front of the cabin W extra legroom. When we boarded, the flight attendants told us to belt baby to one of us parents for takeoff and landing, and that once the seatbelt signs were off we could settle him into his own seat. That was all fine. I put him in my lap and belted him to me while I was waiting for other passengers to board. As the last people were boarding, another flight attendant, FA, came toward us with a tall guy using a cane. She pointed at the empty seat between me and husband and asked the dude if that would be okay. Husband said, "Excuse me, what do you mean?" Quote, FA, "This gentleman is in some pain and needs space to stretch his legs. The only bulkhead seat we have open is between the two of you. If you'd like to move next to each other, I'm sure the gentleman wouldn't mind sitting in the aisle or window." Me, "That's not an open seat. That's baby's seat." FA, "Madam, children under 2 aren't allocated seats. Please let the gentleman sit down." We had blankets and a couple of kiddos' toys on the middle seat. Husband, taking out passports and boarding cards to show her. "Yes, we know you don't give infants seats, which is why I paid for it. My son is sitting here. I'm not holding him for a 10-hour flight at night. We planned ahead and I'm sorry, but this man can't sit here." Quote, FA went and got the head flight attendant, who agreed with us, and they carried on to find the dude an open aisle seat. Flight took off 15 minutes later, so I'm assuming it all got sorted, but when we told husband's family after the flight, his parents started going on about how that's what's wrong with this generation. Apparently we don't consider others enough. You were absolutely in the right. NTA. My heart goes out to the gentleman with the cane, but that does not mean that you bump someone from their paid-for seat. And your baby is a someone. Also, if you don't want to travel on the flight with a car seat, look into the CARES harness. It's an FAA-approved harness that wraps around the back of the plane seat under the tray so it doesn't disrupt the passenger behind you, and anchors the baby to the seat. It is much safer for the baby than being belted to you or your wife, and it would solve this problem again in the future. We also bought a cheapy car seat that was FAA approved for flights and for arrival at our destination, so we wouldn't have to rely upon car rental car seats, since you really don't know what they've been through. That car seat was lightweight and our kids were comfy in it. We'd usually put it next to the window so they could see out the window. His poor planning does not sacrifice an adjoining seat that you planned and purchased. The attendant was trying to bully you into submission. The basic needs of your family comes before the comfort of a stranger. 10 hours in your lap sounds miserable for kid and parents. NTA. NTA. Family is. You paid for the seat. NTA. Gentleman didn't seem to make a big fuss from your comments. NTA. Flight attendant junior, because FA had to check with head attendant. A. Mostly NTA. Family telling you that you not giving up your seat is totally what's wrong with this generation. Yep. This 65-year-old tells you that they are the AH. That's what's wrong with this generation. Apparently we don't consider others enough. Yeah. And your parents' generation don't know when to shut up and keep their opinions to themselves. There's being considerate and there's falling on swords. And your parents' generation didn't do the latter either. You're obviously NTA. If someone needs leg room, they need to book an appropriate seat for themselves. They can't turn up and expect other people to give up their seats. NTA. Lol. You guys aren't in the wrong. It's your right to keep the seat you bought. The family has different views on how they would have handled it. When, if they ever take an active 1-year-old on a flight after buying them a ticket specifically because of how active their child is, and the same scenario happens, then they can make that decision for themselves. As for now, don't doubt yourself and the decision you made for your family. I'm sure the flight went much better and saved you from a bit of frustration. NTA. Tall guy with cane should have purchased seats with extra legroom if it was going to be a problem for him. NTA. You paid for the row of seats. If that man needed the accommodation of extra legroom, he should have arranged that ahead of time. The flight attendant also could have asked the people in the bulkhead seats on the other side if any of them would be willing to exchange their seat with the disabled fellow. I have seen this type of post constantly. I do not understand why people who need special accommodations do not request this when making reservations or spend the extra amount to ensure that they get it. NTA. NTA. You planned ahead. You paid for the seat. To top it all off, it was a 10-hour flight, which is uncomfortable enough with a baby. I've done it, and could not ever imagine holding my kid for that long. Even if it was to be passed between Daddy and I. They found other accommodations for the gentleman. Arguably, people could go on and on about what's wrong with the older generations when it comes to their expectations for this generation. NTA. If he needs extra room to stretch his legs, it's on him to make sure that happens. He can book a bulkhead seat himself, or he can let the airline know that he needs accommodations ahead of time. Just showing up and expecting other people to figure out accommodations for you is not how airlines, or life in general, works. NTA. Good on your husband for not only planning ahead, but standing his ground. In certain situations it's nice to help others with disabilities. But in this scenario it wasn't realistic. The person should have planned ahead as well instead of assuming he would get accommodations. NTA. Sure, sucks for the older gentleman with the cane. But you did everything right. Booked your seats and paid for them. He could have booked a seat with extra legroom in advance, instead of springing that on the flight attendant staff at the moment of boarding. I hope he still got a seat where he could stretch his leg. But it's the old, a lack of planning on your end does not constitute an emergency on my end. Kinda weird that the flight attendant just assumed the seat between you two was empty. You'd think they have a way to check not only which seats are booked, but also boarded. Your in-laws are free to be as generous with their own space, time, and money as they want. And so are you. NTA. You can request accommodations when you book the flight. It's up to the individual to plan accordingly like you did. Your husband's parents sure have no clue about how things work now. Your husband planned in advance and paid for it. It was his decision to make and he did exceedingly well. NTA. NTA. You bought your child a seat and the head flight attendant agreed with you. NTA. You paid for the flight, it is your seat for the flight. If that man was in pain, maybe he should have bought a better seat. Person shrugging. NTA. Airlines need to get their shot together. They should have known that and never should have asked you, especially in front of the client in need. NTA. You paid for the seat to meet your needs. The real issue is people who don't pay and expect others to give in to their needs and get upset when they don't. NTA. You consider others enough to the point of paying an extra ticket. You did not act as entitled a-holes expecting the world to revolve around their procreation choices. Good for you. NTA. It is unfortunate that there wasn't an appropriate seat for the tall man with the cane. But you paid for the seat you need to not let people walk all over you.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.